right, it is Friday, November 13th. All right, I guess we'll start this off then.
Let's get started.
All
Yeah.
right, let me get. This is College Coffee Student News, and Michael Castro, the Enrollment Services Coordinator for Milpitas Extension. I work for San Jose City College at Milpitas Extension for admissions records, financial aid, and student services. And this is my colleague, Ben.
My name is Ben Granger. I am the San Jose City College counselor at the Milpitas Extension. We like to hold these coffee talks, as we call them, usually about every other week, bi-weekly, in order to just spread information and awareness and news about the campus and the college to students. Even though that we're closed, obviously, physically, the campus is closed physically currently during COVID times. We want you all to know that we're still here for you. We're still working, and we're still trying our best to help you succeed. And so that's really what these talks are about.
Definitely. It's just an informal way to spread the news and give you knowledge. We're still there. We're still available to you to help for support. This week's topic, we will be talking about scholarships and how not to pay for college. And before we delve into this week's topic, we'll go over some news.
Yeah.
In case you've been hiding under a rock, we had an election. So we do have the Milpitas Extension did offer the facilities up for a voting facility. So people came in all through the weekend during the election, and on election day stayed open pretty until 8 p.m. And so we do have a new president-elect. So I just wanted to say congratulations. And then from there, we have our new spring schedule happening. If you go to SJCC, our main site, you can pull up our schedule of classes. Our spring semester is out. You can either pull up this list or you can go to our schedule planner at SJCC. And I can pull that up right here too. We have SJCC. Once you go to the main site, which is sjcc.edu, you can travel down here to class schedule. And this is going to have either your ability to look at a schedule planner that I just showed you, or you can just pull down the whole schedule of classes. This would bring up the whole schedule. You can click on that link, or you can go over here to our schedule planner, which I personally love. It gives you quick access to the classes you're looking for. Yeah. It's a searcher. And you can pick by the school. And the spring semester, we also have the intersession happening right now. And Ben, I just want to ask you a quick question. What's the difference between intersession and our spring schedule?
Yeah, intersession, it's important to note, is short. It is 3 weeks long. It is just like really condensed. Most students take one class maximum because going from January 4th through January 21st, it's just boom, 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 boom. If you take a class during intersession, it is a nice way to kind of get ahead, get an extra class in there. But you should be prepared to really devote like 3 to 4 hours a day to that class. That's the time commitment. So that's sort of why most students who do intersession only take one class at most. But there are some nice kind of like general education requirements in intersession that you could take. There's art, there's music, history, government, ethnic studies. It might not be the time, depending on how you are as a math student, it may or may not be the best bet to take something like math. Again, you don't want to take something that's going to be your worst subject, because it is it's really condensed. But there's some good options as well.
And let's layer on top of that the online aspect. So I know a lot of people
exactly, yeah,
are not used to that, and then you throw in 3 weeks, and then online, you fall behind 1 minute. It's like 1 hour. So
that's exactly right.
So keep that in mind if you do intercession. And then the spring schedule is out, everybody.
Spring as well.
So we do have these priority registration dates for spring. So let me pull up my list of priority dates for you. This is how our priority dates group at San Jose City College. We do have special groups and fully matriculated students who are already starting to fill classes up. We also have our less than 100 units, over 100 units. We have one skipped one semester, and then we get to a large amount of students who we work with, which is our high school students. I already currently have some high school students who are freaking out about classes getting filled up, and I'm sorry. Unfortunately, it's just the nature of it. We are a community college, and so we do serve the college students first,
Yeah.
and your priority date is a little bit later. So if you are a continuing high school student, it's earlier than if you're a new student or high school student. So you would have priority on November 23rd, just to let you know. And then you would also move into like your high school as a new high school student. If you did just apply and this is your first semester, it's December 7th. And one more caveat to that is if you had not been coming for a full like 2 semesters straight, then you would be considered in that category again. Even though you're returning, you would be lumped into the new high school student category. And from there, those are our dates. So any confusion on that, that's kind of how we layer these registration dates to try and be as fair as possible. And then we also have our academic calendar. Right now we have our fall semester, like we're at the tail end.
We're almost there.
This is the hard part, you know.
Yeah, we are almost there.
It's almost like some people do a midterm and they don't feel good about it and they want to quit. So don't quit. Meet with a counselor, figure it out, talk to your instructor. You're almost there and you'll feel better for it when you do finish and get that credit and move to what you do. So that's what I would, by experience, is definitely what I would suggest to you. But yes, the reason I wanted to bring up this calendar is we are at the last day to drop fall classes with a W. So that means a withdrawal. Can you let us know the consequences of a withdrawal or a W on a record?
Yeah. So the really important thing to note is that a W does not affect your GPA the way that a D or an F would. So I mean, a W, if you're in danger of not passing a class, a W is definitely preferable to a D or an F because it does not affect your GPA. Now, that being said, a W still is on your transcript. It still indicates that you attempted the course and did not complete it. It could have still financial aid consequences. It still counts as one of your 3 attempts. So you only get a certain number of chances to pass the class, and that counts as one of them. So there are still some consequences associated with the W, but in terms of GPA, it is much, much preferable to get that W than it is to get a D or an F in the course. So very, very important, something to consider.
And again, work with your counselor and your instructor. You think you're worse off than you are sometimes, and you may not be. So
exactly. A lot of students, you know, you might feel like you're in a really bad position, but that could really be clarified or fixed with like one email to the instructor and maybe turning in 1 or 2 late assignments, seeing if there's any extra credit opportunities. You're not out of the woods yet. I mean, like it's still possible, but just know that if you are so far behind, that date is
there's a parachute. This is a parachute. So in ways, right? And then so that is November 23rd, and then of course our campus will be closed November 26th through the 27th. Thanksgiving, happy Thanksgiving, my favorite holiday.
Yes, mine too.
Football and food.
Football and food.
So we're going to move on here, Ben, and we are going to talk about the topic today, which is scholarships and how not to pay for college.
Yeah. That's super exciting because scholarships. So I don't know about you, Michael, but scholarships were hugely important to my education. Is that the same for you?
Oh, huge. Yeah. I wouldn't be possible to go to college without some scholarship.
Same. I got some very generous scholarships when I was enrolling in college, and I like just like you, my college education would not have been possible without the scholarship help that I had gotten. I don't know. Did you get any kind of like unique or interesting scholarships?
Yeah. So this is fun. We were chatting about this not too long ago, and there's so many scholarships out there. It's really fun to see what you can get. I was the person who just applied for everything, no matter if I was qualified or not. I mean, I don't know, Ben, if that's a good idea, but I was young and I was like, I need some money and I'm going to try everything, and maybe I can talk to somebody.
Yeah.
So I had filled out a scholarship for the Masons at one point, and I got it. So I that was one of the unique scholarships that I had received, was a Mason scholarship. Is there any unique scholarships you had received in your education?
The ones I got weren't that interesting. I know I've seen some really unique and interesting ones out there. There's one, if you have to write an essay about why May, the month of May, is the coolest month. May is the coolest month scholarship. Another one,
Oh, wow.
if you the zombie apocalypse scholarship. You have to write an essay about how you would survive the zombie apocalypse.
That sounds like a fun one. You could write a whole
There's
movie off
literally
that.
scholarships for everything
Yeah.
in the world. Yeah, so they're out there. They're out there. So, what are scholarships? Let's start there. So, scholarships are free money. They're a type of gift aid. The fact that it's a gift means you do not have to pay scholarship money back. Now, scholarships could be based off all kinds of things, but generally the criteria includes things like your grades, your GPA, possibly your major, your life experiences, your extracurricular or community service activities, or as we mentioned, writing some sort of contest. Some scholarships can look at your financials and for your family's financial information, but most of them look at other considerations, and lots of scholarships don't look at financial information at all. The important part about scholarships is that money that goes to you, and then you can use that money however you need to, whether that is going to be for paying for tuition, or other school fees, but it could also be used for things like books or supplies, transportation, maybe even room and board. The nice thing about scholarships is that money goes to you, and then you decide how you need to use it for college. And again, it's not a loan. You don't have to pay it back.
That's a really
And
good
so
point.
that's yeah.
I just want to mention, a lot of times students don't know that if you're a student, you can really just use your scholarship for everything you do. You're a student,
Anything.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Eating,
Yeah.
transportation, everything. So your books and computer, if you need it, whatever
Yeah.
helps you in your education, your living situation while a student, that's kind of incorporated into it. So
Exactly. Yeah. So scholarships are definitely helpful, and pretty unlimited in that way. So let's talk about finding scholarships, because I think that's the hardest part for a lot of students, is like, where do you find these scholarships? So probably the number one source of scholarships is directly from your college or university. Some colleges and universities have a specific scholarship application. Some you just fill out the FAFSA, and or DREAM Act, and that's what automatically qualifies you for scholarships. Sometimes there's, if you're in a particular department or a particular college at a university, there might be a separate scholarship application for that particular department. I know at San Jose State, for example, there's the general San Jose State application for scholarships, but then if you're in the School of Education, there's a separate School of Education scholarship. So you would want to fill out both applications. A lot of times, when you fill out the general school application, that one application will then qualify you for all the different scholarships at that school or at the university. So they will kind of, after you submit the information, they will pick out the best scholarships that you're most eligible for. So always take a look at the college or university first and follow whatever their process is. I mean, usually the application for their scholarships happens right around the time that like spring semester. So sometimes mid spring or till late spring, but pay attention to those deadlines because they could have different deadlines for different applications. Different schools have different deadlines, and that does make it a little bit tricky. So
I love that you point out that the school, like usually the colleges, you even private colleges, they
yep,
automatically incorporate you into some sort of scholarship, like
frequently,
or
yeah,
yeah, frequently. I guess not all. I don't think maybe all, but I
no,
think a
definitely
lot
not.
of them or most of them do. They just throw you in a matrix and they see if you fit certain categories that they have for scholarship, because they want you to also be able to pay for college, right?
They
They
do.
want you to come.
They do, exactly. And a lot of times, scholarships, for me, it's what made the difference between choosing one university versus another university was the quality of the scholarships I got. And so, yeah, that is a big draw for a lot of students. And so they do want to offer you the best things that they can. So those are universities directly from the school, and those are very, very important. Um, but equally important, I think, are private universities or private scholarships that come from outside the university. Um, so you can use some scholarship search engines, and we'll take a look at a couple of those later. Now, the problem with these scholarships is, especially when you're looking at these search engines, is it includes scholarships from all over the country. And so you're also competing against other students from all over the country. And so there could be a huge number of applicants, 5,000 students for maybe 10 scholarships or something like that. So while I think it is useful to take a look at those, I also think it's maybe more useful to take a look at local scholarships. Check with your high school's counseling office. Check out your local library, the local newspaper, your employer or your parents' employer, local nonprofits and community groups like the Masons, like the Elks Lodge, like Kiwanis, those types of organizations, even local banks and credit unions may have scholarships for students from that community. And the advantage of applying for those scholarships is you're competing against a smaller pool. Whereas if you apply for a scholarship from the Milpitas Kiwanis Club, maybe only 10 or 20 people actually apply for that scholarship. That puts your odds at a much, much better position than applying for the Coca-Cola scholarship, which has 10,000 students who apply for it from all over the country. And yes, the Coca-Cola scholarship might be, a $10,000 scholarship, but hey, you don't have to get a home run with one hit. You can pile up the singles and the doubles, the 1,000, the 500, the $1,500 scholarships, and getting several of those, piecing them together may be a better opportunity than going for those really big high limit scholarships and just trying to get all the money in one hit. If that makes sense. Does that make sense to you, Michael?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I've seen that. Many students piling in different types of scholarships into their semesters. And they had the same question. The questions are usually like, how does that work? How do I send the money to the institution? And typically, sometimes they'll write the check directly to the student, or they need to see that you are enrolled in the university, and then they will
Yeah.
disperse the money directly to the financial aid
Yeah.
office. So there's different ways of doing that, and that's more of a technical question for your college that you go
Yeah.
to. But yes, that's definitely, I've seen different people do. I've worked in financial aid in many of these places, and I've seen them compile many different scholarships so that they can go through the semester and do well. Not have to worry about that money during the semester. They're going to be worrying about studies, right?
Exactly. That's the whole goal. Is if you
Yeah.
don't have to worry about money, then you can keep your mind focused on your education. Maybe this is the difference between that scholarship might be the difference between you having to work 20 hours a week versus only having to work 10 hours a week. And guess what? Those extra 10 hours, that's something that you can devote to your studies. And so that is really like the idea behind the scholarship. So
Might I say, yes, that's huge, by the way. If you can treat school like a job or like work,
yeah, right.
that's ideal.
It
That is
is.
ideal.
It is your job. While you're a student, going to school is your job. And if you have
Yeah.
another job on top of that, which
You're
is a
diffusing your
reality,
You're diffusing your concentration, I think, by doing that, by having multiple jobs. And then believe me, I did it. It was very
I
hard.
did it as well. I've been there, and so yes, it is a reality for a lot
Yeah.
of students.
So
And I want to be conscious of that. I want to
yeah.
be honest about that.
Yep.
But it's also important to keep in mind what's your primary and what's your second.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of the scholarship search engines. So how do these search engines work? Well, the kind of the idea of it is there are so many scholarships out there. There's literally thousands of them. And so these search engines try to take some of the work out of finding them. So the way they do it is they require you to make a profile, and then they use that profile to help match you with scholarships that you might be eligible for. So when you're filling out that profile, you put in your major. Okay, maybe I'm a math major. You put in your future career goals. Maybe I want to be a math teacher when I grow up after college. You put in your extracurriculars. Okay, I was involved in community service and I ran track, and you put in all this information, and then they say, oh, here's a scholarship for people who want to be math teachers. Oh, here's a scholarship for people who ran track. Oh, here's a scholarship for people who do community service. So they find ones that are specifically targeted to your information. I almost think of them as like scholarship dating services. You fill out your profile, your Match.com profile, and they match you with those scholarships. So
really quick question on that then.
Yeah.
So how do you know, how can you tell the difference between the scholarships that are legit and or scams or phishing you, in a sense, because there are a lot of that out there, right?
That is so important. Absolutely. That's really key. And so there's kind of two things or a couple of things. Oh, first, let me just show you a couple of these search engines. But that's one reason why these search engines are helpful, is because if you just do a Google search for scholarships, you're going to get a lot of junk that pops up, a lot of those scams, just like you were saying. But if you use a legitimate, reputable scholarship search engine, you can be sure that they have already done a preliminary check of those scholarships. They don't just accept anything into their database. And so if it seems like a scam, they're going to flag it right away and delete it from their database. So that takes some of the worry out for you. Not saying that they're perfect. There are still some things that could slip through the cracks. And so using one of these scholarship searches is not still going to be perfect, but it's better than just searching scholarships on Google. Okay. So the other way to avoid scams, you've got to be a little bit smart about it, right? So number one is never pay to apply for a scholarship. If they're asking you to pay them, that's not the way it's supposed to work. They're supposed to pay you, right? That's the whole point of a scholarship. So if they're asking you to pay them just for the privilege of applying,
you're already starting in the hole if you do.
Exactly. It's a scam, guaranteed. So that's number one. Number two, never include your social security number or your bank account number in a scholarship application. If they say, oh, give us your bank account number so we can wire you the money directly, no, they should be sending you a check or sending your school a check. They do not need your bank account number, same with your social security number. They may ask for other information like your date of birth, that might be legitimate. They might ask for your student ID number, that could be good. But if they're asking for a or a bank account number, something very, very private like that, it's almost guaranteed not to be a real scholarship.
And that kind of goes for everything too, by the way.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Part of it is just like trusting your instincts, looking at it. Do they have a professional looking website, or does it look like something that like your crazy Uncle Bob did in his, basement in a couple hours on a Thursday night, that matters. And have you heard of that organization before? Maybe I've never heard of the Moose Lodge. But then I look it up and they're a totally great, reputable organization and actually well known. That's fine. But do a little research into their organization. If it seems legitimate, then it probably is. And then the final thing, that word guaranteed. That's, they can't guarantee anything, right? They cannot guarantee. So if you see something that says like fill this out and you're guaranteed a scholarship, no way. That's just they're fishing. They're trying to get your information, and that's just, it's not reputable. It's a scam. So yeah, so it is important to just stay vigilant, when you're looking through these, because there is a lot of junk out there, and wading through it and figuring out what's good and what's not is part of the battle.
Perfect. And I have a question. How does community college factor into lowering student debt?
Community college is great for two reasons. Number one is because it just costs less to begin with, right? And so whereas a full-time student at a community college, even without any financial aid, any scholarships, anything,
Yeah.
like your tuition is going to be about $1,500 a year. Books and supplies probably several $100s, but compare that to a CSU, which is probably about 7,000 a year, or UC, which is 12,000, or a private, which is probably 25 to $50,000 a year. I mean,
like $3,000 a unit.
Exactly. So you're just starting off at a lower price point. So then any scholarships you get are more likely to cover. Hey, if tuition is only $1,500 and you get a $1,500 scholarship, it's covered, right? Compare that to $30,000 tuition and a $1,500 scholarship. So that's the first thing, is when you're already starting off at a lower price point, those scholarships, you just get more bang for your buck. The other reason why community college is so advantageous is because we have the Promise program. So for students from San Jose and Milpitas, all students who are first time and full-time students, meaning you've just graduated high school, and you're attending college, you're not like a transfer student or something like that, and you enroll full-time, you can get 2 years of college paid for, tuition and fees.
Yep.
And so that means that then any scholarships you get go directly to you, rather than to tuition. So that's super, super helpful. Now, in terms of applying for scholarships, there are some scholarships out there that are only for university students, but there's also some scholarships out there that are only for community college students. So I don't actually think that applying for going straight to a university or going to a community college first, I don't think that either one really makes a difference in terms of the number of scholarships that are eligible, or that you are eligible for. It's kind of a wash.
And then another question would be maybe, what if my family makes too much for financial aid? Can I still get scholarships?
It's a really, really good question. And the answer is yes, but also it depends. So there are some scholarships out there that do take into account your family's income, and that they do ask about family income, and that makes a difference, and that they are specifically targeting students from lower income backgrounds or middle income backgrounds. So there are those scholarships out there that are specifically for students coming from that background. However, there are also lots of scholarships that don't ask that don't take that into consideration at all. And so that's a very important thing also. So I would say the vast majority of scholarships are for something other than family income. So they are for community service, or they are for academics, or they are for achievement in a particular area, like creative writing or science or math, or something like music, something like that. So that is the vast majority of scholarships. And so I would say that even if your family makes too much to qualify for financial aid, scholarships are really what you want to be looking at.
Definitely. And then finally, what if I'm not a citizen? Can I still get scholarships? Are they still available to me?
Yeah. In fact, I have, so of these scholarship resources, I want to especially highlight this one down at the bottom, Immigrants Rising, which is, let's see if it, there you go, immigrantsrising.org. They are a great resource for students who are not US citizens. That could include students who are covered under DACA, students who are under different visa statuses, or students who are just otherwise not eligible for financial aid because of their immigration status. Frequently, the individual schools will also have specific scholarships for students who are not eligible for financial aid due to their immigration status. So they are out there. There are some scholarships that ask for immigration status, but there are lots that don't. So that's really important. Immigrantsrising.org as a resource. Let's talk about essays real quick, because the question is, like, all right, so the essays are very, very common in scholarship applications. Writing some sort of personal essay or personal response. But one of the things that's interesting is a lot of essays are going to ask similar questions, or a lot of scholarships are going to ask similar questions. So a very common one is, what is a challenge that you've had to overcome in your life and how did you do it? Or what is a time you made a mistake and what did you learn from it? Frequently, scholarships that are based off a specific subject area or specific major, like math or English or science or something like that, are going to ask, how will your study of this subject contribute to your career goals or help you to improve your community? They want to take what you're learning and see how you're going to apply it to the real world. So when scholarships ask these questions, but even before your scholarship search, because they ask, a lot of scholarships ask similar questions, a lot of times you can write one essay and just tweak it a little bit to fit that new scholarship and basically reuse like 80% of your essay. You can also do some brainstorming even before your scholarship search. Think about those very common essay questions and start pre-writing. What might you say if you come across that essay question? And then again, 100%, have someone proofread and edit your essays. If you turn in something that has a lot of grammatical mistakes or errors, like is not well written, it's not going to look good and you're probably not going to receive that scholarship. So whether it's a counselor, a teacher, or someone like that, family member, have someone proofread and edit your essays for you. And then the last thing that's really common in applying for scholarships are letters of recommendation. And so I wanted to, that's probably the last thing that I really want to bring up then is these letters of reference or recommendation. So half the battle is choosing the right person to be your reference. And it should be someone who is really familiar with your background, your academic or personal background, and can really speak to that, right? Don't choose your teacher that you've only had for like 3 weeks at the beginning of the semester and doesn't know you because you haven't even turned in any assignments.
Yeah.
Don't choose a teacher who you didn't do well in their class and you completely blew off their class and you got a D or a C, a minus, Don't choose someone, your counselor, if you've only met them once and that was like 3 years ago and they may or may not remember you, right?
How about a relative?
Don't choose a relative. Exactly. No.
Yeah.
Choose someone who, number one, knows you, has known you for a while, a teacher that you had multiple times, who has seen your growth over time, a counselor that you have a close relationship with from working with for several semesters in a row, a boss or supervisor from your work, a coach who's coached you over multiple seasons. Those are the people that are going to be able to write the best letters for you.
And also, like you want to steer your letters of rec in the way of what you are applying for. So, like if you're doing community service stuff, maybe
Yeah,
there's a community service manager who you've worked
perfect.
under. That's kind
Absolutely.
of who you want, right? As opposed to your
Exactly right.
English teacher, which may still be a
Absolutely.
good rec, but not for that particular scholarship.
Exactly right. Yes, 100%. You can match them, right? If the scholarship is for someone who the requirements of the scholarship are for showing academic excellence, choose a teacher that you were excellent in their class. If the scholarship is for community service, choose a person who supervised you at your community service. If the scholarship is for being a good leader, choose your coach of your swim team, who selected you as captain and saw you be a leader in that situation. So matching the person and the specific scholarship is very, very smart. The other thing is that I just hate when students do this is when they spring a letter on you at the last minute and they're like, hey, could you write a letter of rec? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And they're like, I need it in 3 days. You can't do that. It's so
A
unprofessional.
really good point. Yes,
Oh
yes.
man. And
And you
and
can't
you
be
know what?
upset with them either because
Exactly.
it's not their job to be your letter of recommendation person,
And
to write letters for you on the fly.
and
It's your
how do you
job to
think
get.
they're gonna how do you think they're thinking of you at that time if that's what you do? Like, let's be honest. Like, if you just really made them mad by throwing on them at the last minute, is that really the person you want to write supposedly nice things about you? So give them at least a couple of weeks. Check in with them, about halfway through to see how it's coming, see if they need anything else. I really like when students give me a copy of their resume and maybe the essay that they wrote for that scholarship, so I can include key information from those
Oh, that's great.
into my letters. Um, and then frequently, letters of rec can be used for multiple scholarships as well. If I already spent a couple hours writing this letter of rec, sure, I can change who it's addressed to and resubmit it. That's really easy to do. So just some of those points. Picking a good person, though, I would say that is by far the most important part.
Here's one more thing. I know this isn't a recommendation show, but when it comes to people who recommend you to,
Yeah,
it's nice to give them gratitude, send them a letter or something. Thank you for the recommendation, but
it
also
is nice.
stay in touch. Like
Yeah,
it's really
exactly.
important. You're going to need references going forward in life.
Right.
Like stay in touch with people. Also, they could be your mentors going forward.
Sure.
Mentorship is so important to your growth and in your career path. It's really helped me along my path, and I know it's helped many people. But don't take the growth or the mentorship from people and references
Yeah.
for granted. Try and stay in touch with those people, even if you just talk to them every so often. I think that's really important.
And let them know if you got the scholarship that they helped
Yeah,
you write the
right.
application for, right? That they sent the reference for. Um, Follow up with them. Keep in touch because yeah, I think that's really, really
Yeah,
important.
they're your advocates.
Exactly.
Great.
Yeah.
So, is do you have anything else? I think I'm out of questions. Do you have anything else to add there, Ben?
That's all I have. I mean, really, when it comes down to it, applying for scholarships is a numbers game. I'll kind of
Yeah.
end it with this. When I was a senior in high school, and I was applying for scholarships, I ended up applying for probably 10, probably no more than 10, probably like 20 scholarships.
Wow.
Well, I only got like two of those outside of the
Yeah.
ones that my university offered.
Hmm.
But guess what? Those two scholarships, they were $1,000 each. And so that $2,000 really, really helped. I kind of think of it like if I say I spent an hour on each scholarship, and so 20 scholarships, 20 hours, I just made $2,000 in 20 hours of work. I'm making $100 an hour with those scholarships. I don't know any job that
Yeah,
my
for
job
sure.
doesn't make $100 an hour now. Far from it. I would love to have a job that made $100 an hour. So,
Yeah.
it does take time. You got to put the time into it. You have to invest, and it's not always easy, but in the end, it's a numbers game, and it can be worth it.
And yeah, I mean, this is a good point. And when you're in college, it's not over.
It's not
Keep a
over.
lookout. Like keep a lookout, like I did. I definitely kept a lookout. I'm that type of person though to just like keep looking for something that to help me.
Yeah,
And I was always looking at scholarships when I was in college, when I was going to the university or school.
exactly. Yeah,
I would look at the bulletin boards. Here's an overlooked thing that college students do: they don't look at the bulletin boards. They don't look at the scholarships. They don't read any of the
yeah,
stuff that's available to them. And I've seen that time and time again. And so yes, when you in college, look at the bulletin boards, look at what's happening, and see what's available. Because that's how I saw my other scholarship, which I became an ambassador, a student ambassador, and in this case, that came with a full scholarship for like a couple of years. So
yeah,
that's huge. I
yeah,
just saved like, wow, 50 grand or 40
yeah,
grand, and I went to a private college. So those are huge things. And you just got to find the opportunities and always keep an eye out. Not always easy when you're in
no,
college to see the forest from the trees, because
yeah,
you're doing the work. It's hard. It's not easy. But
yeah.
but yeah, if you keep your ear to the ground and look for things, you can find them. So
You
just keep
can.
keep an eye
They're out
out.
there. They're out
Yeah.
there. Yeah, absolutely.
Great. So it looks like we're out of time. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. If you come up with questions that you forgot to ask during this session, during this meeting, feel free to email us back. Um, I'm michael.castro@sjcc.edu. That's Benjamin Granger. Benjamin.granger@sjcc.edu. You can join our office hours as well. If you go to our SJCC X Milpitas, that's SJCCX Milpitas website. You'll see on the front page we have office hours. You're welcome to Zoom in with us and chat with us directly. Registration season is upon us for spring. I'm already getting a lot of students who are interested in
Mhm.
how do I register for these classes? What's going on?
Yep.
It's time for me to register.
Yep.
Join me in Zoom. I'll walk you through the process, and I know Ben can walk you through the counseling process as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, and until next time,
Until next time.
we please stay safe. Have a wonderful weekend, and cheers.
See ya.
Adios.